What's going on, everyone? I'm here with John from Drager, and today we're going to be tuning in and talking about the Drager Alcotest system. So we've read a lot of questions on the internet. We're going to talk about those and answer some of the questions. And John's also going to dive a bit into the history of the Drager Alcotest and what it's used for. So John, just wanted to say thank you very much for coming on, man, and give you the chance to kind of talk about the device we have right here.
Hey, Austin, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to have another media day with the
Let's
International
go.
Safety Group. It's always super fun getting to do these kinds of content creation. So definitely happy to be here.
Love it, man. No, it's always an honor. Like we always try to make these more fun for everyone watching. We know a lot of this stuff can be very generic, maybe a little boring. So that's where we're gonna kind of go back and forth and spice it up, and hopefully you learn a thing or two out of it. So, John, if you want to take it away and tell us a little bit about the Drager Alpha test.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've got right in front of you, or me at least, is the Alcotest 4000, with the predecessor being the Alcotest 3820. So this would be our, let's say, consumer grade breathalyzer that we have from Drager. It uses the same kind of sensing technology as a professional grade, which would be the Alcotest 6000 and 7000 that's out there on the market.
Cool, that's really cool. And we have a whole bunch of questions here that we actually found on the internet. So John is obviously pretty knowledgeable about this type of things. Obviously, make sure you guys read up on all your information. Some of the stuff we might talk about could be different in a different province. But let me take out my phone here and let's ask some questions. So my first question for John is, what is the Alcotest 4000 designed for, and who is it best suited for?
Absolutely. So the Alcatraz 4000 is designed for the consumer market, whereas a lot of our other products that we have out there on the market is more for the professional side of things. 4000 is going to be your very basic breathalyzer unit that basically you turn it on, you wait for it to say ready, and then you blow, and after a couple of seconds, it would have collected the sample. Basically, it is for the everyday person rather than the professional one for like a workplace or law enforcement side of things.
Gotcha. No, it definitely makes sense. And as we approach the holidays, we always want to kind of announce and say, please drive safe out there. Obviously, if you're drinking, don't drive. And if you do have a drink, make sure to always use a breathalyzer to make sure that your blood alcohol level is always in range. So my next question I have there is, how long does it take to get a reading?
It depends on how long or like how high a concentration you have. I think it's been a while since I've actually done one on myself, but I think it is the lower the concentration, the longer it will be for it to detect it. But we can also do a sample right now just to show you what exactly it would be like, at least to collect the sample itself, and then from there it's just a matter of waiting for a value to show up on the display.
Gotcha. Yeah, let's definitely test it out. And hey, we'll know if John has been drinking on the job or if not. So let's get into it and see.
Okay, so I currently have my unit off right now. You'll see that I have call it a dust cap or protective cap. What I can do is I'll just remove this cap, right? It now exposes my mouthpiece. This is a personal mouthpiece. If I needed to get more, I can always just buy more off of International Safety. However, it is reusable, so it all depends on whether or not I think I need to replace it. It's personal preference, really. So I have this one button in the middle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold. It's coming up right now. You heard that beep beep. You now see it's ready. And then at the bottom below that ready, it'll tell you what number of sample you're on. So at this point, I'm ready to blow into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my mouth, blow into it. I should eventually hear a click. Once I hear a click, that means I don't have to blow anymore. So it's as simple as haven't had a drink in several weeks now, so it is showing me 0.00.
We can confirm John has not been drinking on the job. So the breathalyzer works very well. Really good stuff there, John. That's really cool. So my next question I have, can you explain what the legal limits are in Canada?
When you drink any kind of alcohol, it is a poison that your liver is supposed to process and, let's say, dispose of or excrete over any period of time. However, we're only able to actually process a certain amount of alcohol per hour. So anything that might be above that would get turned into like or get added into your bloodstream. In terms of what the legal limits are, I can only speak from what I've heard about in Ontario. We always hear about the 0.08, and that would be for like your immediate impoundment at the roadside. So anything at 0.08 or above could it is definitely going to be something that you don't want to have. But just because you're at, let's say, 0.079
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're going to be immune to that, and that would be up to the discretion of the officer as well. So moral of the story is, if you're drinking, please do not drive.
That's always the right thing to say. Right on, John. And why is it so important to wait 15 minutes after drinking before blowing?
If I don't wait that 15-minute time after taking a sip of alcohol, what's going to happen is there's still going to be some residual alcohol on my breath, and that's what the detector would be detecting. So, for instance, if I were to just do a shot of tequila right now, blow into it, obviously I'm going to blow way over. It doesn't necessarily mean that my blood alcohol concentration is above that 0.08, though.
Cool. I'm really liking this. Obviously, there's a couple things I didn't know, and John is so good in this field. So, again, always appreciate your time, John, to come in and talk about this, man. Next question I have up here is why might someone want a personal breathalyzer at home or on the job site?
I might want a personal breathalyzer just because it's kind of been interesting to have an idea of like how alcohol can affect your perception or your body itself. So like we always hear about 0.08, that's like the danger level or whatever it is. But how do we know what 0.08 feels like, or even 0.04 or zero point 0.02? That's where it's kind of interesting to just do that kind of, okay, let me take a drink, let me wait 15 minutes, let me blow into it, see what it's like. Okay, let me continue doing that for, let's say, a night out or something like that, and see how gradually your like reaction times and all that kind of stuff degrades over time, and what that corresponds to with a quantifiable number. Yeah, it's definitely a fun party trick. Sometimes almost too fun, because
Yeah.
instead of it being like, oh yeah, let's make sure I'm being safe right now. Sometimes people are like, I wonder how high I could get this number right now. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I have heard this and I have had one around, and everyone's always like, oh, so you should bring out the breathalyzer and see what we're all kind of blowing.
yeah.
And yeah, it can always be very interesting, but obviously we want to keep it professional. You can obviously have fun with it, but it's such a handy tool. And obviously, one of the biggest things is it can also save a life or your life when you do know your blood alcohol limit. And we all should know when you shouldn't get behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah, and then sorry, one last thing to add to that is just because you realize that, oh yeah, sometimes like I know that whenever I have, let's say, 4 beers, I'm gonna blow this concentration. It's always going to be different depending on like how you slept, how much you weigh, what you last ate, how much you ate, and all that kind of stuff. So it's always a good idea just to
Mm.
blow into it whenever you get a chance if you
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense because I know there's like some people, right, that they maybe have one drink per se,
Yeah,
and then they feel drunk,
yeah.
or just like, not able to drive because obviously they've had a drink or two. And then you could have one guy that maybe drinks a lot and he has 6 beers and
Mhm.
he feels fine.
But just because you feel fine doesn't necessarily mean that you are fine, because over time, you hear about these functioning alcoholics who learn how to hide the symptoms of being drunk.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where, yeah, it just reassures and literally tells you what your limit is and always stay within it. Really good, John. This is actually like really cool. I love having these like kind of like general little discussions with you
Yeah.
because this is a cool product, guys, that we obviously have on the shelf. And we hope you get a bit more information about this item. One that kind of comes to mind as well. We get this question a lot of times. People see the Drager breathalyzer. It's obviously a professional, more expensive breathalyzer on the market.
Hmm.
What would be the difference between, and this is kind of on the spot here, but what's the difference between like a cheap one on Amazon
Hmm.
versus one like an Alcotest 4000?
So definitely, it's going to be the sensing technology, like because we have the same kind of sensing technology in both like the consumer grade and the professional grade. You
Mhm.
could be, let's say, more confident that the readings that you're going to be generating with the Alcotest from us is going to be more in line with, or getting more consistent results. Whereas some of the ones you might see just at like a pharmacy or something like that, you might get an accurate reading the first time, but maybe not the second, third, fourth, or fifth. So you don't get that repeatability out of it. And of
Gotcha.
course, international safety is able to calibrate these units as well. And the recommended calibration interval is going to be every year.
And basically, I just have more or less like two little questions here, and then maybe John, I can get you to dive a bit into the device. I don't know if you want to show like any settings we can change or
Yeah.
just stuff like that that people might have questions about. So, kind of one that comes to mind, is there any like they almost say like party tricks? Like they always say, like, have you heard where let's just say you're driving and there's kind of like a road stop up ahead. People, I've heard one where it's like people suck on a penny. Have you heard? Like, what is the weirdest, almost one you've heard of that kind of helps lower your blood alcohol limit? I'm just curious.
Okay, I mean, like you always hear about the fact that, oh yeah, I can just like sleep it off. However, and this might just be something I've heard over time, but you're more likely to get charged with a DUI the night after partying rather than the night of. That happens just because like you might have drank a lot and then you wake up and you're like, oh, I feel fine, or maybe you don't, but you don't realize that you don't, and then you
Mhm.
get caught by a ride stop, and that's it. So that would be possibly one of the things that people think is like, oh yeah, I can just like sleep it off or just like drink a lot of water. I'm also 99% sure that even Mythbusters might have done an episode or
No
like a
way.
part of an episode
No way. Okay.
on common attempts on doing things.
Yeah.
Basically, just make sure you don't drink and drive.
Yeah. Obviously, guys, don't drink and drive. Know your limit. I think that's really cool. So I think now, obviously, with this device, there's so many cool little different things on there. We don't have to get too deep into it.
Yeah.
But John, I don't know if you want to kind of go in a bit to the device and show the camera like a couple different settings.
Sorry, it's kind of hard for me to do this just because I'm not looking at it as well. So I see ready right now. If I push it, then it says enter menu. If I, and then it timed out on me. I pushed it again, and now I'm in my menu section. So it says the very top one right now is measuring, but I can also go down to results. And then, so if I push it, then it will go down to the next one. If I push and hold, then it'll go to that particular one. So now it's going to say, it says 3 in the top. If I hit it again, it should say 2. And then if I hit it again, it should say adjustment passed. So that would have been just been like, oh yeah, I did a calibration on it recently. So again, if I push and hold, then I go out of it. But then you can see I have results, info screen, next service, date and time, contrast, speaker, language, measuring unit, software version, service info. And then if I go back to measuring, if I push and hold, then it goes back to ready.
All
Yeah.
right, so John did a really good job of obviously covering the inside and kind of what the breathalyzer is and what it does and all the stuff there. But my kind of final question for John is like, what's some cool facts about kind of the Drager breathalyzer, or maybe a cool historic thing?
So, some of you may know, Drager being a German company, our very first patent is known as a Lübecker valve. So that is a pressure reducer for CO2, because once upon a time, there were kegs of beer and there was no way of controlling it going from that high pressure to low pressure, until obviously some Germans decided, hey, we have to come up with a better way of doing this. And then fast forward half a century or 50 years later, we got so good at being able to dispense beer, we also had to come up with a way of being able for you to detect what your concentration of alcohol was. So
That's
back in the
crazy.
1950s was the first recorded um, instance of us as an organization, or Drager as an organization, being able to detect blood alcohol.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Honestly, working for international safety, I got to say, like, Drager is definitely one of the coolest companies that we carry as a manufacturer. Not only do they have amazing products and go back, a whole time to when they started, but again, just got to give a good hats off to John. John is honestly one of the greatest reps I've been able to work with here. And honestly, we hope you guys kind of like this video. This was something different. We'll get John on the channel more often. I'm sure you guys have seen him now many times on our social media, Instagram and whatnot. But if there's any other things you guys want to see there, make sure to drop it in the comments. John, I'm not sure if you want to conclude, kind of wrap it up. Any final things you want to talk about with the breathalyzer or Drager?
No, I think that's it right now. I obviously really appreciate you and us being able to collaborate together is always such a fun time, whether it's about Drager or anything else. So be sure to hit that like, comment, and subscribe.
Awesome. And we'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.